Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of Super Soldier Talk. I'm James Rink, it's December 11th, 2016, and today I have a very exciting roundtable discussion to bring you about the Secret Space Program, and I have Ileana Kapolnik, Penny Braley, and Lindsay Hooper with me, and today we're going to discuss about the Secret Space Program being a criminal enterprise. And I was talking to Penny earlier about the various kidnapping of children, and I think a lot of people out there think that the Secret Space Program is here to save humanity, where that they're going to release, because they are a breakaway civilization, according to Corey Goode and Randy Kramer and some other various whistleblowers. It appears that the Secret Space Program is, in fact, enslaving its own people, similar to what happens here on Earth. So, would someone like to comment about the kidnapping of children part? Is that how, essentially, they bring people into the Secret Space Program, or is it something you're born into, like through the alien abductee phenomenon?
Yes. It's something that you're born into as far as genetics. Genetics are definitely do play a part in being sought after and chosen for these programs. And yes, it does start as a child, and it is kidnapping and it is slavery. Definitely, as they train us and other children for weapons, for their own weapons to be used in certain criminal acts and undercover and black ops, and it's a disgrace. So yes.
Lindsay, could you introduce yourself to the audience and just to give a little very brief bio background, because some people don't know who you are.
Yeah, that's fine. My name is Lindsay Ellison Hooper. I am a MyLab abductee, also a super soldier. I was taken at the age of between 5 and 6 into a MyLab ship, and James and I were actually going to be going into depth in a week or so about the extent of my experiences. I was also involved in Project Paperclip. I was used off planet for government operations, and trained to do central intelligence jobs for them. But like James had said, it starts at a very young age. You're taken and you're used off planet and on planet, and it is kidnapping and it is slavery, because we do these jobs and we do not get paid for them. So kidnapping, slavery.
Certainly,
slavery.
Thank you, Lindsay. And I want to give the other two guests a chance to introduce themselves very briefly. Penny, you're next. So I know we've actually done an interview together, and I highly recommend the listeners to check that out on Super Soldier Talk. But just briefly, can you tell the audience what it is you do and what's your involvement in the Secret Space Program?
I was also genetically modified before I was born. My initial kidnapping was I was 4, and I was taken to Langley for 5 years, and mind fractured and then trained as a psi weapon. I was also trained in the Montauk program during that time. I was 9 when I was taken to Mars. I spent 25 years on Mars. I left Mars in 1990 and spent 25 years in Dark Fleet as a ship navigator. In 2014, I was age regressed and time traveled back to when I was taken in 1959, and since then I have been a MK Ultra project. I have alters that one is a super soldier and another one is a CIA agent. According to Peter, all of my memories of the programs are correct. Peter checked with my ACIO file. So I have been vetted. In Dark Fleet, I was a ship navigator, and my ship transported slaves, materials, and cyborgs all across the solar system and general space where areas where there were not jump gates.
And we certainly will talk a little bit more about the slaves, because you certainly brought up an interesting point about that earlier. But I wanted to give Ileana a chance to introduce herself, and of course she's done an interview with me as well on Super Soldier Talk. But for the viewers who have not seen it, that they will or familiar with your work, Ileana, can you please explain a little bit about yourself and what your role was in the Secret Space program?
So my name is Ileana Kapolnik. Real name is Alina, but I prefer to go by my soul name, which is Ileana these days. My experiences began at the age from 2 to 10. I was abducted by 2 sets of different reptilian groups and also a harvester ET being who's very tall and looked humanoid. So from the age of 4, I was basically injected with nanonite or femtite technology. I was injected with 36,000 of these femtites in my body in order to ruin my nervous system, because they wanted to, they had seen in the future that I would be part of disclosure work, that I would be part of the ascension and disclosure work right now in this current time frame. So they wanted to kill me and shut me down at a very young age. And these nanites caused me to be sick all the time, to have viruses, to be in the hospital. It basically broke down my nervous system. I have autoimmune diseases. I have neurological issues, hemiplegic migraines with paralysis. So basically, they wanted to kill me, but they didn't succeed. I survived, so I was abducted constantly, and I was taken into underground bases from the age of 4 to 10, and I was experimented with. I saw kids being chained to the walls, waiting for them to be taken into the underground base labs. I grew up in the Ukraine, so this was, I remember being taken into another country from Ukraine, somewhere in Europe, and then also being taken in the United States bases, where these experiments were done with the reptilians and the gray harvester humanoid ET man. And these guys, all 3 of them were male. So, and there was a reptilian that was black, one green, and grayish, palish, gray, white skinned guy, the tall guy. So that's what I have memories of. And basically, I was sick through most of my childhood. And I migrated from countries from Ukraine to Israel and then to Canada. And while these immigrations were happening, I was put in various MyLab programs where they drowned me. They tried to change my brain into being a supercomputer. So I have perfect memory, recall of everything. I have photographic memory because they tinkered around with my brain from the age of 5 to 10 to make sure both of my hemispheres, left and right hemisphere of my brain, were working exactly the same. You know, our hemispheres are different. They have different functions. Mine is, they work the same, both hemispheres of the brain. It works like a supercomputer. So I have a lot of downloads coming in of information. I could see the future. I have almost full memory recall of my time in a quantum leap 60 years and back in an SSP program. And this happened from 2000 to 2011 to 14. Where I was put into the SSP program. But first, before that, I was put in a Monarch program where they drowned me continuously, where they tested my psychic abilities to see how much remote viewing I could do. They had me remote viewing Mars bases as prep training for when I would go on Mars in the 60 and back quantum leap time travel program. They'd constantly drown me, torture me. I am immune to any types of pain. They beat me. They whip me with electrical whips to make sure I didn't feel any pain. Like, even if I'm getting my teeth done, fillings, whatever, I don't take freezing because you can do a root canal on me and I won't feel the pain. You can stab me and I won't feel any pain. So there's no guilt in association with feeling pain or administering pain. That's what they trained me. And when I went into the Quantum Leap time travel program from 2000 until 2011 and to 2014, basically I was doing translation work in linguistics. I would be taken in various ET meetings and I was supposed to record and translate what was going on. In the Super Federation meetings, that was part of it, and then I was supposed to encode and decode that translations into a secure database. That was like 10 years. Another 14 years was spent in aeronautics, designing hyperdimensional ships with neuro interface programming. So you don't have to push buttons when you're in these ships. You use the neuro interlink and you connect your brain to the ship and you navigate the ship. That's something that I was working on. I didn't build the ships physically, but I was working on the Neuralink technology to advance the shipbuilding. And there's various SSP programs like Solar Warden, ICC, Dark Fleet. And I was.
Well, can you explain the difference between the different SSP programs? Like, what's the difference between the Dark Fleet and Solar Warden? Just briefly, like in a sentence or two.
Sure. So there's the SSP Alliance, which it formed loosely with the people who defected from the interplanetary corporate conglomerate ICC that builds the most advanced technology out there. The Dark Fleet is human breakaway. Basically, it's like an army that works with the Draco, reptilians, and other negatively based species, insectoids, mantids, and they have a few bases on Mars and the Moon, but most of their major cities and bases are outside of this solar system. And they're ruthless. They're willing to kill people. They're willing to manipulate you, damage you in order to coerce you to do what they want. And they don't directly go onto the reptilian ships. They travel in their own ships, but there are reptilian liaisons that are either full reptilian or hybrids, insectoid reptilian hybrids, and they interact with the Dark Fleet as their liaisons because they travel together to conquer other civilizations. And there's a strict no interspecies intercourse. The Dark Fleet does not sleep around with other species except humanoids. That was something else that when I was on the Mars basis, stationed there for most of my work, because I also did informational, I went into their informational centers. I made sure information was encoded and encrypted correctly into the databases. So I was checking on security and encryption in all the databases. That's why I was on the bases so much, mostly on Mars. I can recall 11 bases on Mars and a couple of bases on the Moon. That's what I was doing there.
Can you comment what Solar Warden is? You mentioned that as well.
Solar Warden is a mid-level SSP program. They were created in the 70s to 80s, I believe. That's the first stages when they were created. They started off from the government funding, and now they ventured off on their own. They have enough resources to build their own ships that are more advanced. Not as equal to the ICC, but close. They have more advanced ships. I remember I designed some ships for Solar Warden as well. They weren't as advanced as the ICC stuff, and the ICC makes very advanced technology, Neuralink technology, for their ships, and I worked primarily for the ICC, the Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate. They trade with over 1,000 different ET species. And that's where the slave labor comes in on Mars, and they take unwilling people they kidnap them or they entice them with false promises of grandeur. You know, you're going to have a better life than here on Earth. It's not overcrowded. It's going to be much better, cleaner environment on Mars. They're made false promises. And when they come on Mars, it's basically you're put in an 8x10 room or something a bit larger. You're isolated and you're put to work, whatever, building components for these ships. And these guys don't know what they're doing. They're just making parts, separate parts for a whole unit of Neuralink technology, building parts of ship components, alloys, materials, and then it's all put together. So it's all compartmentalized.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that correctly.
Compartmentalization. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
you were
James,
close. Yeah, you were good. Yeah,
Yeah.
so essentially, now Corey Good, and Penny may even want to comment about this, and I don't know, Lindsay, if you want to jump in, but Corey Good has said that the ICC is trading trading resources for technology. Is that correct, Penny? Can you comment about that?
I was a navigator on a freighter in Darkfleet. So I was symbiotically linked to the computer of the ship, that using the tech that Eliana was just talking about. So I was aware of what we were shipping, and at the time I knew where, but that's been blocked. So I know that what we carried on my ship was those parts she talks about. We carried slaves, and we carried tons of cyborgs. And where the slaves came from, I didn't know, because I had been convinced, brainwashed, mind-controlled that Earth was dead. So a lot of us were told they were clones. Well, as a thinking person in this life, this part of the life, I don't see any difference between a clone and an identical twin. But apparently in the secret space program, clones are considered to be soulless, so it's okay to treat them like crap. I don't believe that. And for the record, I apologize to any human being that I transported that was in a slave condition, because I was mind controlled at the time. And the me that is now knows this is wrong and would not do it. But my understanding is the major product that the ICC is selling to these ETs are cyborgs designed to be robotic super soldiers with a human consciousness, because it requires a human consciousness to operate the tech. You have to have a human consciousness to operate the weapons, to operate the ships, to operate even the external exoskeleton that they wear into battle has to have a human consciousness. So each and every one of these is created out of a human being. And that's the main product that the ICC is selling to these 1,000 ET races.
Basically, super soldiers or cyborgs.
They're cyborg super soldiers. That's what they're selling.
Well,
And
Corey
what they're-
Goods.
What
Go
they're
ahead.
getting back is advanced tech.
Yeah,
So
well,
they are literally selling their fellow human beings for this tech. And most of those cyborgs are created out of kidnapped people. There are over 2 million people that turn up completely missing on Earth. No trace to be found of them whatsoever. And those people are being turned into cyborgs.